Welcome to Conversations with the Old Pros. My guest today is Pat Gardner. Pat, you have been a fixture here in the woods for a lot of years. Do you want to give us a little background on how you started here?
Well, yeah, it is funny to think back because it was a long, long time ago. And I was singing with the choral group here, so I was asked by one of the members in the choral group to go over to Clubhouse 3 and try out for one of the musicals, the early musicals, Bent and Broken on Broadway. The early 2000, I think it was. And that was a lot of fun. And so I stayed around and I was in a couple of more musicals and I danced a little bit, had a few lines in a couple of the shows, and I was kind of slowly working my way into adding the theater to my list of fun things to do it was Leisure World then, fun things to do in Leisure World. I was golfing, I was singing with the Harmonaires, I was playing a lot of bridge, and so I wanted to add something else. And lo and behold, I was in a show called The Merry-Go-Round. And now this was maybe about my fourth show. And there was some kind of a rumpus between the director and the producer and the stage manager. And anyway, several of these really important people walked out of the show. And the stage manager walked out. And they turned to me and asked me if I could help out there. Well, why not?
Oh, that's that slippery slope that we always talk about.
Why not, Carol? And so, with the help of two wonderful techs that we had, techs are the paid people that the Clubhouse 3 or the Performing Arts Center have, working up in the little sound booth up in the top of the theater. With the help of those guys, the help of Sheila Bialka, naturally, what would we do without Sheila? And the help of Nina Bryce. Nina Bryce, a wonderful participant, especially in Old Pros. She helped me learn how to set up the notebook. There are all kinds of little odds and ends that a stage manager has to know how to do, and setting up your notebook is it's not a little task, it's a big task, because it provides you with all the information you need for giving cues to the tech people.
What else do you do beside giving cues to the techs?
Well, I don't know if all stage managers, in theater have to do this, because I had a stage manager book that I was reading about, and I did a lot more than what they said in that book. Finding a prop person, finding a script person to sit beside me when we were taking blocking notes, finding people to help with setting up the stage. Let's see. And then all those wonderful people that worked backstage during the performances for the various entrances that you would have actors coming onto the stage. They would
make sure they showed up on time and on cue.
Well, yes, and make sure all that was running smoothly back there. It's quite a crew that you have backstage. Helping you. And then, of course, the techs for light and sound up in the booth, and then somebody on stage right and stage left at the two microphones that would connect you up to the booth. So there are a lot of people involved in, setting.
Oh, yeah. And during the rehearsals, sometimes the director wouldn't be there, and it would be you actually running the rehearsal.
Not very often. Usually, the directors were there. And that was the other thing, that you learned how to work with the director. you learned quickly that you were not the director, that you worked under the director, and followed the director's directions. And the directors, they were wonderful. I mean, they were different. We had all kinds of different directors. We had one director, John Perrick. He used something called a storyboard, and he would draw pictures of how he wanted that scene to look on stage. And he would have his storyboards handy. Okay, now Jeannie Sanders, oh, she was fabulous too. She was so meticulous about her setting up that stage. She set it all up at home on her dining room table and on another surplus table, and would move the pieces around and the set around until she got just exactly what she wanted. And then she would transfer that over to the stage, and it would be exact, right down to, at one point, in Agnes of God,
Oh, yes.
we counted, which you were a major star, Carol, we counted the little boards that the stage is made up of. We counted how many of those were from one point to the next and where the leg of the desk had to go.
That's right, because we had used 3 separate pools of light rather than one major set.
That's right, Carol. I had forgotten about that.
We had the office, her office.
Right.
We had the couch.
Yes.
And then we had the Mother Superior's office over on the other side, and it was all. That's why that had to be done.
That had to be very, very carefully laid out on stage. And when we would set up the stage, it had to be put in precisely those positions, you know, so that was another. But then you worked with Sheila Bialka as the director, and she kind of worked, and I mean this in the most flattering terms, from the seat of her pants. She had the ability to watch what was going on and see what needed to be fixed. And she could, you know, she had that imagination of to work with that she was so good with. So,
okay, now that's the basics. I know you have some funny stories about things that have happened along the way. Would you care to share a couple?
well, there were lots of funny things that happened. And I must tell you that, you know, all of these things, they were never really big problems. Like, I'm thinking of the gin game.
Oh, yes.
The gin game, we had 2 marvelous actors, and they were just bringing this show, you know, to great heights. But they didn't play cards. They really lacked card skills. And of course, we knew that there would be a lot of people in that audience, you know, who knew how to play cards, and we couldn't fool them. So I was a card player, and one of my duties was to make sure that they played cards properly and correctly. So I think that was a funny one. Another one that was really exciting was with David Deering directing One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest. And One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest had a very elaborate staging, because at one point the star of that show he receives electrical
Shock therapy.
That's it. Yeah, shock therapy, and it was carried off on stage brilliantly between David's directing and the tech people with sound and lights, and me giving the cues for those actions. That was exciting. Oh, that was exciting. And then 12 Angry Men was a big cast. That was a lot of fun, but it was a big cast to keep track of, and to keep track of who was talking when and what was going on. But anyway, those were some memorable moments that come to mind. Oh, but all the shows, I think Social Security maybe was one of my favorites.
You know, I was just thinking, because I was looking up the list the other day to see how many shows you had been in, and the only way I could figure it out was to go through my own list. But I was just amazed, and I realized there was a time when you and I have been together on stage, and both times we played sisters. One was A Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And the other one was Casserole Brigade. I think that is one that probably had more cast than just about any other production that we've ever put on. It just kept being a changing cast of characters.
Right, and both of those, I stepped out of my role of being stage manager and had the fun of being an actor. And I remember how much you helped me in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I absolutely loved that role, though. I just loved the role that I was in there.
Oh, you were a delight. You know. And you know, that brings up a point, because we've been talking about opportunities for people backstage as well as on stage. Mm-hmm. And just because you do one thing doesn't mean that you're stuck doing just one thing. Frankly, and many of us will tell you, you do one thing, they'll find something else that you can do. And I acted, but I've also wound up doing makeup and costuming. And as you said, you were stage manager, but you started out with the acting.
Right,
and
right.
It just...
Well, quite often, too, you know, an actor doesn't get a part. There are just so many parts to go around, mm-hmm. and an actor didn't get a part. So that actor ends up coming in often to me saying, "Is there something I can do? You know, I want to be in this show too." And you can always find, you know, something for somebody to do backstage. Backstage is, and let me go back to talking about backstage. It's a very serious business, backstage. For one thing, it's dangerous. So I learned how to give safety talks to the actors right at the very start of the show, or in rehearsal. Now, what's so dangerous about backstage? For one thing, the back of the set is supported with sandbags to make the set sturdy. And these are sticking out. You can trip over them. So you have to be very careful of the pathways that you outline so that people don't trip over those sandbags. Also, it's very dark backstage, very dark. Now, we do have, when crossing from right stage to left stage, we do have blue lights, and you can follow this little pathway with this blue light on, so you can make your way over from one position on the stage to another. But the rest of the stage is dark. So there are treacherous parts for, you know, for moving around backstage. And it was...
Well, when you say dangerous, it can be, but it's one of those things that you just, if you're aware of it, you just use practical safety precautions, so we don't want to scare anyone away.
Well, we never had any trouble.
No. No, you had an excellent record with all of the shows. How many shows have you done?
Oh, heavens, I didn't count them up, but I started in 2002. And I ended in 2017, and that included that included the summer shows of the Shakespearean shows that we did, and it included the Valentine shows and the Christmas shows.
All the special ones that
but
old pros
we
have
did
put on.
2 plays a year, you know. We did a spring play, and we did a fall play, and often I helped with Theater Guild too. So I just loved it, and I fell into a role that I was really completely happy in.
Well, we hope you come down and meet us, and maybe you'll find that perfect role for you, whether it's on stage or behind the stage. Pat, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, it's been fun.
Well, welcome back to Conversations with the Old Pros, and my guest now is Fran Conroy. Fran, you would identify as one of the newer old pros. You have been here since what, 2014?
Yeah, about 6 years. About 6 years with the old pros and Theater Guild.
Right.
Right.
And speaking of that, I was looking through some of our programs, and of these, I found a few. In fact, all of these have your name in it. Mostly,
I know.
Mostly, my dear, for makeup, but also for costuming and hair. You have been a little busy during this time.
Oh, yeah. Too many for me to even remember, so I'm glad you have the booklets, you know.
Well, flip right through there. Can you think of one or two
I can't remember
shows?
the first one. I can't remember the first one, but I remember doing Dracula.
Ah,
That was very challenging.
I can imagine, yes.
Yeah. At that time, I had to run into LA to get costumes and special effects. And after I ran into LA, they said, "Oh, we don't need that." It came in handy, though, for Halloween. But no, but it gave me a good idea of what was out there. And it made me more interested in the makeup and behind the scenes. I like working behind the scenes. I find that you're part of the group, but you have an opportunity to see how everything comes together. And once you know how everything comes together and how it works, it makes it so much easier no matter what you're doing in the theater.
You had mentioned running up to LA, and I remember you used to do these forays up there and come back with tons of costumes.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I love doing that. The other one, the first one, let me think. Marge Barnett.
Barrett.
Right. I forgot her last name for a while. She's the one that got me involved in it, and it was really funny because I was supposed to meet the woman that was going to do the makeup, and Marge says, "Oh, just fill in, and then after we'll go out to dinner." I says, "Okay," and that's when there was 3 shows. Remember when there was 3 days, Friday night, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday.
That was a killer.
And the makeup artist never showed up. So here I had all these people for this musical review, and where do I go from there? I says, "I'll never come back and do this. This is terrible." And I loved it. After that weekend, I was hooked. So if you have any creativity whatsoever, makeup and costumes are great. I work with you and with Carol David in the costume closet. It was great. And once you see the costume, the makeup, everything falls into place, and you can understand the character's part so much more. And then they got me on stage a few times too, so more than a few times.
Oh, two images stand out in my mind. One, when we did the scene from La Cage aux Folles, "We Are What We Are," and we had the chorus line of guys and one ringer.
Yeah.
And then we had the MC, and you, my dear, were the little Joel Grey.
I know, and they couldn't believe how I could disguise my voice and bring it down so low to do the monologue. It was very funny.
And then you had that great dark wig.
Dark
so you
wig
really
on and a mustache. And
well, you have done so much, not just with the makeup, but with wigs. You've been a tremendous resource for that.
Yes, in fact, I donated a bunch of wigs to the Theater Guild and Old Pros.
I believe it was about 48 because I did the count before I brought it in.
Right, right. Yeah, with me not living here full time, it's very difficult, but I miss it. And then when COVID came, it was really hard. But I think I may get back into doing the I like the costuming, and that wouldn't take up a lot of my time, so the commute back and forth won't be so bad.
That's great.
That's the problem.
Because we really love to have you back, and you could be wonderful in helping to guide some new faces, because we have a lot of people who've moved into the community. COVID hit us back in March of last year, and I keep bumping into people who've just been here a few months or came in late last year, and they don't know what we have to offer.
Oh, there's so much. There is just so much that we have to offer. It's wonderful. And it's a great way to meet people, because once you start volunteering and working with the group, all of a sudden you just have this broadened family. And it's hard to explain unless you've been in it, but we have dinners together, we have rehearsals together. It's just you become part of this family. Every show is a family, and you meet new people. So if you have any inclination, really, to do makeup or do hair, anything like that, contact the Old Pros. They are great. They'll help you, walk you through everything. If I'm around, I'll be glad to help. It's really worthwhile, and you meet so many wonderful people. That's a good thing.
Right, and our website is ocoldpros.org. So you'll find a lot of information about us there on the website. Fran, you mentioned that you're back and forth these days, and
Yeah.
we really do are happy to get you when we find out you're lit for a little bit of time.
Right.
So, but you said you've been up to Vegas and you've been working up there. Did you get involved with any of the theater up there?
No, I was involved with the TV program, SCA TV. And I have a master's in nutrition, so I did nutrition segments for TV and health and nutrition. I was the odd bits and pieces. They put me in wherever they needed me to do a fill spot. But I kind of grew a little following up there, and it's nice. And then I started to become a reporter and going and interviewing people, but then COVID hit, and I was stuck in Vegas with everything shut down. And California closed down before Nevada, and when Nevada started to close down, that's when I came back to California, and I've been in California lockdown here, but up in LA, and LA's lockdown is a lot stricter than down here in Orange County, so it made a big difference. And when my lease was up in Vegas, I moved everything back here, and I said, I'm staying here. So between here and LA County, that's
You're
shuffling.
quite a nomad. You probably should have a little your own personal U-Haul truck going back and forth.
That's why I don't get rid of my SUV. It's piled. I have pictures you would not believe. They say, how could you drive it? There's only 3 inches. I says, I can reach the steering wheel and see out my side view. That's all I care about. So.
Well, you know, one of the things you were talking about a little earlier was the fact that you've done costuming, you've done the makeup, the hair, and you've acted, which, again, when you're with the Old Pros, you're not stuck just doing one thing.
No.
It's always a flexible item. I know Marcus said that he'd be photographing and they'd grab him and say, here, we need you back here, move a set.
Many a time. Remember, he was the Rat Man, he was the Batman. The poor guy was all over the place, flying bats for Dracula, catching rats for
You
another
see what
one.
opportunities await you when you come to the Old Pros?
And then you can have a nickname. Batman, Ratman.
Well, but that's again, you know, because a lot of us love to do different things. We like to act now and then if the part is right, but it's just as much fun. I get behind the...
And even set designing. You know, we can always use somebody for doing set designing.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we need people that are very creative and can decorate things, because our sets, we try to bring them to life and fit in.
We have a few good people
Noreen
who have
was
done...
fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulous.
In a pinch, I just call up and say, hey, Noreen. But again, that, you know, we're looking at a person who is really good at something. It's just like when we had Johnny Levesque, who won Academy Awards for his sound, and we would use him when we were doing our radio show, and he would do all the sound effects, and it was a great fun for everybody to watch as the Foley artist, which is what they're called when they do sound effects, would create these sounds right there on the stage. And it's such a wonderful possibility of learning things. And we're never should stop learning to do new things. It's exciting.
It is. It really is, and it makes being part of the group more interesting too. You know, because you're challenged. You want to try this. You want to try that. Oh, let me see. I think I can do this. Let me see if I can.
Hey, we need this special effect done for the set. How do we do it?
Right.
And
Right.
when you discover that you came up with the idea, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that never fazed me. But the part that I enjoyed was creating the character for the scene. It gave me great pleasure, especially when I had to make Tony Garcia, who was at that time, 87, looked like he was 45. He walked past his kids, and his kids didn't know who he was. I mean, that gave me great thrill. I mean, that's like, I just won an Academy Award for that. he walked right past them. They didn't know him, and he says, "Hey," and they turn around and they go, "Dad?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Oh my God," they couldn't believe it. It was really something. But you get such pleasure out of accomplishing something creative. That's what it is, whether it be acting, behind the scenes, doing your set decorating. There's just so much to do in theater. You're never at a loss.
And that reminds me, the other character that stood out in my mind, it was a little musical segment of Henry VIII.
Oh God, don't say that.
Oh,
that was
tell them.
Frank Van Winkle, right? He was Henry VIII, and he wanted me to play his wife.
Yeah, this in Henry VIII, it's not the Tudor Henry VIII.
No, it was the song Henry VIII. In the meantime, I had 23 people to do makeup and costumes for. So I
help people.
I had to be in it. So I had to switch from one outfit to another outfit. And I put a long red wig on, for those of you who weren't at the theater to see it. And I had a cleaver that I strapped to my back to make it into a comedy. And I had on 8 rings. And I needed another ring for 9, or I had 9 rings and I needed another one for 10. And I came moseying on out and flirting with a man in the second row, and he was throwing me kisses and I was throwing him kisses back. And Frank is singing, I'm Henry VIII, I am.
And the trick about that was he was her 8th husband.
Right.
And this is why.
Right. And then I took the cleaver out and chased him off the stage. So that was really funny. And when I came on stage, I had long red hair, and Mark, who was doing photography and up in the sound booth, thought it was Carol. And he said, "What is Carol doing in that part?" And
I was innocent.
And when he came down, he realized it was me. It was very funny. That was a funny skit.
Yeah, that's one of the wonderful things about theater. You come away with stories, with remembrances, and you can tell your kids, and it's great. It's
fun.
Really fun.
It's fun. So it's a great thing. Theater is a great opportunity to get involved with the community, because believe me, after the shows, the community comes out and greets you, and you hear the accolades, and it's wonderful. You feel like you've really accomplished something, but the people that you work with are fabulous.
Having said all that, please check out ocoldpros.org. Find out what we have to offer. We have a lot of plans for this coming year. We are all so eager to get back in and to be doing all the things that we haven't been able to do for the last, it's almost a year and a half now. It's really added up. And we have plans for monthly meetings where we will be doing presentations, either readings or memorization. And there'll be comedy, there'll be drama, all kinds of great stuff. Check us out, check the Globe, come see the old pros. Thank you, Fran.
Oh, thank you, Carol. It's been fun.
Yeah, it sure has. A lot of fun.